Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and today I'm going to give my first attempt at a tier list. So, my tier list is going to be a little different than how some other people do it, I'm sure. What I'm going to do is start off with the team that I think. Well, I'm just going to start off with Dom 1 Gaming because they're the ones who won the championship last. So, I'm going to go through every single team and then I'm just going to compare them heads up and see which team do I think is stronger. And as I get more teams in the list, I'll have to make more and more difficult decisions. So it'll be pretty matchup dependent at first, but you know, we'll just see where it goes from there. So first up, I'll start in the let's start in the LCS. So from the LCS, we have 100 Thieves, Team Liquid, and Cloud9. So let's do Cloud9. And we'll go lane by lane. So we have Fudge against Khan. I think that there are matchups that Fudge can win against Khan, but it's going to come down to the draft. So I don't think that I can really speak to a gigantic talent differential at this point in their careers. Khan was a difference maker in the top lane, but because of how I think they're most likely going to draft throughout this tournament, I don't expect it to be a huge top lane differential. In the jungle, Blabber against Canyon. I think Canyon is just a better version of Blabber. So, champion pool wise, there's a lot of overlap, and for that reason, I think you kind of just have to give the edge to Canyon. Are there, drafts that could turn out really well for Blabber? Yes, but again, well, from a talent perspective, Canyon's just better. Showmaker against Perks, same thing. Both players are very good. Both players have a lot of champion pool overlap. Showmaker is just better in like basically every single way. So in order for Cloud9 to win in the mid lane, it's going to require a draft diff. And then Ghost and Beryl against Sven and Vulcan. I don't think that the gap in this lane is as big as it is in top and in mid lane and jungle, but there's definitely a gap. Ghost is just better than Sven at this point in Sven's career, and Beryl and Vulcan are probably pretty close. Beryl is a very good player though, so if you really wanted to, you could give them an edge. I don't think there's a big edge in the support role, but that's just the way that it is. So when it comes to C9's chances to beat Dom 1 Gaming, can they beat them in a game? Yes. Can they beat them in a match? Yes, but is it likely? No. If I had to put a line on it, it'd probably be like Dom 1 wins 80 or 85%, 85 or 90% of the time, probably. So 85 to 90 is like minus 500, minus 600, I'm guessing. Next up, we'll do 100. Well, let's do Team Liquid next. So personally, I think that in the top lane, Fudge against Alfari. I think that Alfari is the more proven player, but I think that Fudge's upside is right in line with Alfari. I don't think there's a huge difference there, but I'm willing to give the edge to Alfari. Santorin against Blabber. I think Blabber is just an all-around better player. Perks against Jensen. I think Perks is just an all-around better player. Tactical and Core JJ against Sven and Vulcan. I think that Team Liquid's bot lane is better. So we have Team Liquid with a slight advantage in the top lane and an advantage in the bot lane. I think that the jungle mid duo, C9 hasn't been great at playing through that and making it a winning advantage. So I'm willing to put Team Liquid above C9. I do think that overall from a talent perspective, I like C9 better, but because of recent form and everything like that, I'm willing to put Team Liquid above them. If the two teams played against each other, I would be actively rooting for C9, and I would probably think that they are the better bet because I'm always willing to bet on talent. over like recent form. Next up, 100 Thieves. Okay, and then I should do Team Liquid against Dom1. So Team Liquid against Dom1, Alfari and Alfari against Khan. Alfari could probably get into a lot better positions through the draft because I could see Dom1 like just blind picking Gnar, blind picking Kennen, playing like to go even in lane, and if they do that, then there's always the chance that Fudge gets a carry, or Alfari gets a carry champion and is able to win the laning phase with additional pressure from their team. Canyon against Santorin is not even close. Canyon's much better than Santorin. Showmaker against Jensen is not even close. Showmaker is much better than Jensen. And then in the bot lane, Tactical and Core JJ against Ghost and Beryl. I think this is probably somewhat close. Ghost got very overrated during the last Worlds because they were winning so much. But he's not a true carry player. He's more of like a utility AD carry and is successful because of the team around them. So I could see if you're Team Liquid and you're able to draft even in the mid lane and jungle and then get advantages in top lane and bot lane through the draft and play around like an early game tempo, I think you have legitimate chances to win some early games, but I wouldn't pick them to beat Dom1 Gaming in a series, and obviously Dom1 is just much better, so that's that. I'll have to flesh out the tiers a little better as we go on. Next up, 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves against Dom1. So Someday against Khan. Someday's probably better than Khan. Someday's talent at Someday's peak was probably the same as Khan at Khan's peak, when Khan was considered like the best top laner in the world. I think that Someday had that kind of talent. Does playing in the LCS completely eliminate that? Yes and no. It definitely doesn't help, but I don't believe that it's gone. Like, I don't think the talent is gone. So with Someday against Khan, it'll probably be two players playing for the rest of the map, picking like innocuous top lane champions that fit into good team compositions, and they'll probably just go about the draft that way. In the jungle, Closer against Canyon. Canyon's just a better player than Closer. Same style of player, it's just Canyon's better. Abadaga against Showmaker. This is a spot where, you know, I think that when we get into the drafts, I could see 100 Thieves going for late game champions when Dom1 like picks a mid game champion like TF or something like that, which would give 100 Thieves outs, but it's not because of talent. It would be down to draft. And then FBI and Huhi against Ghost and Beryl. I think FBI and Huhi, same thing with Tactical and Core JJ. They're both very close to Ghost and Beryl, maybe even better than Ghost and Beryl in terms of power. And that sounds crazy to say. That's probably an overreaction. I probably have to walk that back at some point. But I'm not doing it today, because that's not this video. So next up, let's go to Europe. So 100 Thieves against Team Liquid. 100 Thieves against Team Liquid. Someday against Fudge. It's similar to the Khan versus Alfari matchup. Closer is just better than Santorin. Abadaga is just better than Jensen. And then FBI and Huhi against Tactical Core JJ. It comes down to the draft. Whichever team drafts for like the winning laning phase will have the tempo advantage in the early and mid game, which in that matchup is actually, you know, extremely important. So there's that. So let's go to Europe. So we have Rogue. Rogue against C9. Odoamne against Fudge. I prefer Fudge. Inspired against Blabber. I think it's probably Inspired, but I'm willing to give that like a push. Larson against Perks. Perks is a better player. Perks has had issues this year because of the whole eye thing. I don't know how much of that is real and how much of that is just an excuse, but it seems like a real thing to me. Like, he's just not going to go around wearing a hat on stage to like protect himself from criticism. It's like, I think there's a legitimate issue there. And then, yeah, Rogue's better than C9 in the bot lane. So it's very close. I'd probably prefer Rogue, and it would come down to the odds of which side I'd prefer to bet on. But this feels about right in this range. Rogue against Team Liquid. Alphari's better than Ottawamne. Inspired's better than Santorin. Larsen's better than Jensen. And then Han Sama and Trimby are better than Tactical and Core JJ, so I'm fine putting them above them. Then we have Han Sama and Trimby against FBI and Huhi. That's probably a push. I prefer Han Sama, but that's probably a push overall. Abadaga against Larsen. Probably Larsen favored. Inspired against Closer. Probably Inspired favored. And then Ottawamne against Someday is probably Someday favored. So I do think it's probably like that. It's probably like that. Next up, Fnatic. So the fact that it's that close, I'm not putting Rogue above Dom1 Gaming. Although I guess I should talk through the matchup. So actually, no, I'm not doing it. I want to get through more of these faster. Fnatic. I don't think Fnatic is as good as C9 or Team Liquid or Rogue or 100 Thieves. I know that Fnatic beat Rogue, right? But Adam against Ottawamne, I think a lot of that comes down to draft. And Fnatic drafted well in that matchup. In the jungle, I think that Bwipo is not as good as Inspired, but I think, again, they really did a good job drafting in that series, so congrats to Yamato Cannon. That was a good match for them. Niski against Larsen, I prefer Larsen heavily. Han Sama and Trimby against Upset and Hillsong, I prefer Han Sama and Trimby. And again, these are just my opinions on players and their talent levels, and do I like their play style and all those things. A lot of those things are not quantifiable. So if you have a difference of opinion with me on some of these things, I get it. But that's why I made the video, is to kind of explain why I think about this stuff the way that I do. Mad Lions. I think that Mad Lions is definitely better than Fnatic. Similar playstyle, but just better players overall. So then let's go to Armut against Fudge. Pretty similar. Personally, I like Fudge more. In the jungle, Elyoya against Blabber. I think Blabber is a better player overall. I think that Elyoya is very overrated. There's a lot of good drafts, and the only things that we've seen from Elyoya are them playing carry champions in carry metas. And maybe I'm not being fair enough. Maybe it's closer than I think, or maybe Elyoya is better. I would never be able to actually have that opinion, though. I just don't see it like other people do, I guess. Humanoid against Perks. Perks is obviously a better mid laner than Humanoid. And then Karzi and Kaiser against Sven and Vulcan. I think that you can give Mad Lions the edge in that one. So it's pretty close from a talent perspective, just in terms of players that I like. But I'm willing to concede that Mad Lions is playing much better than Cloud9 right now. If this was a tier list based purely off of talent, I would have C9 rated higher. But Mad Lions is playing better right now specifically, and has been playing better this entire calendar year. So I'm willing to put Mad Lions above them. Armut against Alphari, I like Alphari better. Elyoya against Santorin, I like Elyoya better. Humanoid against Jensen, I think that's basically a push. And then Karzi and Kaiser against Tactical and Core JJ. That's very close, but again, I'm willing to give Mad Lions the benefit of the doubt for that one. Against Rogue, Armut against Ottawamne, that's a push. I think Inspired is better than Elyoya. I think that Larsen's better than Humanoid. I think that Han Sama and Trimby are better than Karzi and Kaiser. But I'm willing to put them in the same tier. And I think I'm just going to leave it like this. You got to make it up further before I even start talking about the Dom1 stuff. Although I should just talk about it. I had a little bit of coffee and I'm feeling kind of scattered right now. It's a little late for coffee generally. So Armut against Someday, probably a push. Elyoya against Closer, I prefer Closer. Humanoid against Abadaga, I prefer Abadaga. And then Karzi and Kaiser against FBI and Huhi, I prefer Mad Lions bot lane. So maybe it should be like that. Those three teams are closer. Khan against Armut, I prefer Khan. Canyon against Elyoya, I prefer Canyon. I prefer Showmaker, and then it's the same thing. I think that Karzi and Kaiser are a good bot lane. If they can get a good draft against Ghost and Barrel, they can win the lane. The problem is when you have Karzi and Kaiser playing those more volatile matchups, it's much more explosive, and there's a chance that they can just completely throw the game away. So I'm fine leaving it like this. Next, we should do PSG. So I need to remind myself who is on PSG right now. So Hanabi, River, Maple, Unified, Kaiwing. So a lot of the same players that we've seen in the past, and they are pretty good players overall. They went 9-12 at Worlds last year. They had Unified and Kaiwing. They had Hanabi. They had River. No, they had Hanabi. They had River. They did not have Maple. So Maple is an upgrade. So they should be a stronger team than they were last year. I know that the mid laner that was at Worlds, there was a fill-in. It was like a sub, and that was Uniboy. And I think Uniboy did have a good year last year, like the Echo main, right? If I'm remembering correctly. But I think Maple is a better player overall. And this is most of the same team that they brought to MSI, but they swapped out Doggo for Unified. They went 18-0 in the PCS, and then they won the finals 3-2. Who's on BYG? They on PK. All right, I don't know any of those players. So, all right, so against Fnatic, this is going to be a tough one. I do think that River is very good. I do think that Maple is pretty good. I think I have to leave PSG down here because the matchups just... Hanabi against Adam is very close. River against Bwipo, River's probably better. Maple against Niski, Maple's probably better. Unified and Kaiwing. It's really tough. PSG is a team that I'm not going to be able to have a great opinion on because I don't see them play as much. I just know the players. So I feel like a lot of people might push them up a little higher, but I think that's kind of like square. It's kind of a bad perception because like we've only seen them in very few instances as like on the global stage. But they did play okay at MSI. I'd have to see, I'm probably going to have to see them again before I have a better understanding of where they would fit within these teams. But I'm sure that they can go... It would be like minus 150, plus 150 either way in like every single one of these matchups, I think. So if PSG is an underdog against these teams, I'd probably want to bet PSG just because I would expect lower ownership or rostership. I know people are like freaking out about those words right now. Not saying that you should or shouldn't freak out about those words. It's just I will have to realize that I'm saying it and I guess stop myself from saying it if that offends you. All right, so let's go to Korea. And I know that I'm going to get shit for this. So let's just do it, I guess. Hanwha Life is better than PSG. Hanwha Life is better than Fnatic. So I really want Morgan to play the entire time. So Chovy is the best mid laner out of every team in B and C. Morgan is probably the most underrated top laner in the entire B and C tier. I don't know enough about Willer. And then Deft and Vista, if we're judging them based purely on history, then Deft would be the best AD carry. But Deft is not playing as well right now. So it really comes down to your ideas about the bot lane. So Deft and Vista against Upset and Hillsong, I'll take Deft and Vista. Them against Sven and Vulcan, I'll take Deft and Vista. Against Tactical, this I think would be difficult because of the champions that Team Liquid's likely to play, but I'm willing to do that. FBI and Huhi, I think you have to put Homalife in this range, and I'm fine with leaving them at the top of this. Against Karzi and Kaiser, like, this will be the more aggressive side. 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 So the fact that these teams will have the aggression advantage over Homalife is something that could be problematic for Homalife, but I'm willing to bet on the long-term talent of Homalife because they have the best player in all of those matchups in Chovy. So that one feels a little bit thin. Like, maybe I'm giving Chovy too much credit, and the fact that they're going to have potential problems in the bot lane in a lot of their matches could be a problem. But going into those matches, as long as they're drafting like respectfully, then they're going to get good matchups in the bot lane where they're not completely screwed in the laning phase and then just play through the top half of the map. I really think that Morgan, assuming that Morgan plays every single match and is drafted around, I think that Morgan could come away from this tournament as like the most shocking performance of the entire Worlds tournament, just because that's the upside that I see from a player like Morgan, because they are able to play a lot of the carry champions very well. T1. So T1 scares the shit out of me right now because of everything that they've been going through with their roster throughout the year. I know that they've kind of settled on Kana, Wunner, Faker, and Keria, but the Teddy Gumayusi stuff is kind of annoying to have to deal with. I don't know who is going to play. I don't know which one I'd rather play. It probably just depends on a lot of the matchups. Like, against slow teams, I think I'd probably just rather have Teddy. Gumayusi brings in a lot of volatility, which could be a good thing, but I think that the steadiness of Teddy is probably what I would prefer. So T1 against PSG, T1 is better. And the reason why I think this is because I think that Kana is now the best top laner in tiers B and C. Wunner, I don't know enough about. Faker is a top 2 to 3 mid laner out of this entire group. And then Teddy and Gumayusi would both be probably the first or second best AD carry out of all these players. And Keria is the best support out of all these players. I genuinely think that Keria is a top, like, 2 or 3 support in the entire world. I know that this hasn't been a good split for DraftKings scoring, but Keria is the future of League of Legends. Next up, I think I can also justify putting T1 in a tier above that. So Genji. Genji is better than them. Rascal's underrated, Clid's underrated, BDD's underrated, Ruler is a god, and Life is okay, but not great. I think a lot of this is going to be draft dependent. The reason why I think that Genji has such a good chance at Worlds to be a team that surprises everyone is because of Ruler and because of the tendency for a lot of teams to slow down when they get to Worlds, because they don't want to make that one costly mistake that completely throws away the game for their team. Genji has had problems in the past with high pressure situations, which could be their downfall, but if you're looking at Rascal against all the other top laners here, like, Rascal is closer to Kana than to, like, Alfari. Like, Kana's just a better version of Alfari. Clid, out of all these junglers, is probably the first or second best. Whippo, Blabber. Yeah, probably the first or second best. BDD is probably the between second to third best mid laner, maybe fourth, probably second or third, behind Chovy and maybe Faker. Ruler is the best AD carry out of all these players. And then Life is not really a difference maker in my opinion. So I think that Gen G is better than T1 right now, which I don't think is that controversial. Do I think if I had more trust in Gen G's ability to navigate high pressure situations, I would put them in the S tier, but they have... Why is my computer slowing down? They have had big issues with that in the past. So, yeah, they've... I don't know if the whole thing just messed up right there, so I'll just say it again. Gen G has had bad problems with high pressure situations, and for that reason, I kind of have to leave them right here, which is fine. Next up, LNG. So, if we're going by jungler, Tarzan is the first or second best jungler at Worlds. It's either Tarzan or Canyon. Those are the two best junglers at Worlds. If you go by mid lane, Icon is probably somewhere between 5th to 8th in terms of mid lane. Ale is probably underrated and probably just better than all of the top laners. The thing with Ale is that they will put him into carry matchups, so it'll be very volatile. So I could see them losing some of these matchups because of pick ban, which is scary and will potentially look very bad. Light and Elwandi. In terms of bot lanes, I like them more than Deft and Vista. I think more than Hansama and Trimby, Karzi Kaiser, and FBI Huhi. I think I like them more than all those pretty easily. But like I said, first or second best jungler is extremely important. Maybe I have... do I like them more than T1? It's right around here. There are real question marks. Like Kana against Ale, I prefer Kana. Tarzan against Wunner, I prefer Tarzan. Faker against Icon, I prefer Faker, but that's another spot where if Icon is drafting more aggressive in the laning phase, then we could see Icon win matchups against Faker. Although I bet when we get to Worlds, Faker is going to be on another level. And the team is more willing to draft like aggressive champions for Faker in that scenario. And then Teddy and Keria against Light and Elwandi. I could see Light and Elwandi winning some of those matches, especially because of draft. I think it's probably more likely that Light and Elwandi pick the winning bot lane matchup and T1 tries to scale. So that would give LNG a tempo advantage when they already have a jungle advantage. Based on that scenario alone, I would put LNG above T1. And that's probably it. I think I like Rascal more than Ale. I think I like Tarzan more than Clid. I like BDD more than Icon. I like Ruler and Life more than Light and Elwandi. So I'm fine with that. Damwon against... If you get into a spot where LNG and Damwon Gaming are on opposite sides of the bracket and LNG has like an easy path to the finals, LNG could be a good dark horse choice for champion. That'd be a tough matchup though. I think I like Light and Elwandi more than Ghost and Barrel Definitely like Showmaker more than Icon. I like Canyon more than Tarzan, but maybe not by that much. And then I think Khan and Ale are very close. So let's just move on. RNG, I'm not going to waste my time down here. Like, the first real question mark is RNG against Hanwha Life. So Xiaohu is better than Morgan. Wei is most likely better. Cryan is not as good as Chovy. And then Gala and Ming are better than Deft and Vista at this point. Kana against Xiaohu, that's probably purely matchup dependent. I'm willing to give it to Xiaohu. Wei against Wonner, I think I don't know enough about Wonner really. I don't know. I've seen more Wei than I've seen of Wonner. I like Faker more than Cryan, and I like Teddy and Keria more than Gala and Ming. I think that Gala is the most overrated player in the world right now, and that's not saying that they're a bad player. I would take Gala over every single AD carry from the West. I'll take them over Deft. I'll take them over Light. I'm not taking them over Teddy or Gumayusi. I'm not taking them over Ruler. I might take them over Ghost. Yeah, I think this is about it. Ale against Xiaohu. I prefer Xiaohu, but Ale has chances to win those matches. Tarzan's better than Wei. Icon is probably just better than Cryan, unless Cryan has like a new champion that fits their pool really well and they can exploit it at Worlds. And then Light and Elwandi against Gala and Ming. It's probably like a push. So I'll take the jungler in that spot most of the time. And then Genji against RNG. Rascal against Xiaohu. I prefer Xiaohu. Clid against Wei. I probably prefer Clid. I think people forget how good Clid is. BDD, I'll take BDD over Cryan every day. And then I'll take Ruler and Life over Gala and Ming every day. So I'm fine with it like this so far. Let's go EDG. EDG against Hanwha Life. So Flandre against Morgan. I'll probably take Flandre, but it's very close. And if Morgan had more footage in the summer split, I would probably like Morgan better. I'll take Jai over Willer, but I could be convinced going the opposite direction. Scout against Chovy, I'll take Chovy. And then Viper and Mako. Viper and Mako, I'll take Viper and Mako. EDG against RNG. Flandre against Xiaohu, I'll take Xiaohu. Jai against Wei is 50-50. Scout over Cryan. And then Viper and Mako over Gala and Ming. Flandre against Kana. I'll probably take Kana there. Jai against Wonner. I'll probably take a push on that one. Scout against Faker I think is even. And then Viper and Mako, they're just... Viper is better than Teddy and Gumayusi. I think Keria is better than Mako. That's very close. Ale against Flandre. That's a push. Tarzan against Jai. I'll take Tarzan. Scout against Icon. I'll take Scout. But that's a very close one. That'll be draft dependent most of the time. And then Light and Elwandi against Viper and Mako. I'll take Viper and Mako. So it's probably like that. And then Rascal against Flandre. It's probably Rascal flavored, but I'll do a push on that just for the sake of the tier list. Jai against Clid. Probably Clid favored. BDD against Scout. Probably BDD favored. But again, I'm willing to make that a push. And then Viper and Mako against Ruler and Life. And that's a huge question mark to me. I think that Ruler and Viper are very close. Ruler, Viper. They're probably the two best AD carries at Worlds. Like, those are the two elite AD carries at Worlds. If Gumayusi, like, played out of his mind, like, I could understand why people would want to push him up into that tier. If Gala had a great series, I know that people will say that it's because he's an elite player. I don't personally see it, but I get how that could happen. EDG against Damwon. So Flandre against Khan is very close. I'll say that's a push. Jai against Canyon. I'll take Canyon. Showmaker against Scout. I'll take Showmaker. Viper and Mako against Ghost and Barrel. I'll take Viper and Mako. So it's really bot lane versus jungle mid. That's meta dependent. So it depends on what you think the meta is going to be like. And then last but certainly not least, we have FPX. So let's go FPX against Hanwha. Nuguri is better than Morgan. Tian is better than Willer. Doinb is just as good as Chovy. And then LWX and Crisp are better than Deft and Vista at this point. Nuguri is just as good as Xiaohu, so that's a push. Tian against Wei. It's very close. It might be Tian favored right now, and I'm very surprised that I'm saying that because Tian looked very lost for a lot of this year, but they've been playing much better recently, and their champion pool now includes Viego, which is important. If we start seeing Graves come back into the meta, then I'm going to put them further down in the list, or I would put Tian further down in my jungle tier list, because that is something that I don't think that they were good at all. And if it becomes like an omnipresent champion again, it's going to dictate how a lot of drafts go, which is going to be a big problem for FPX because they'd have to waste a ban on it or let the other team pick it all the time. Doinb against Cryan. Doinb is better. And then LWX and Crisp against Gala and Ming. That's probably RNG favored. So do I think that FPX should beat RNG? I kind of do. And I'm willing to say that they will. FPX. So Nuguri against Kana. I think it's very close. It's the same argument as the Xiaohu Kana matchup. Like, I could see it as a push. I could see it as Nuguri favored. Tian against Warner. Same thing. The junglers are kind of not the differentiators here. Doinb is better than Faker now, which is crazy to say because, you know, Faker is Faker. But Doinb is better than Faker right now, or at least more impactful. Like, we're more likely to see a Doinb carry performance than a Faker carry performance. And then LWX and Crisp. I probably prefer T1's bot lane. But again, I don't think I'm willing to bet against FPX in that matchup. So I'm willing to push it ahead again. Ale against Nuguri. Nuguri's better. Tian against Tarzan. Tarzan's better. Icon against Doinb. Doinb's better. LWX and Crisp against Light and Elwani. That's a push. So I'll take Doinb's impactfulness over Tarzan's impactfulness. Flandre against Nuguri. I'll take Nuguri. Tian against Jai. I'll take Tian. Although I could see it as a push. And then Doinb's better than Scout. And EDG has the better bot lane. So now it's meta dependent. FPX against Genji. Rascal against Nuguri. I'll take Nuguri, but it could be a push. I could see that, but it's most likely just Nuguri favored. Tian against Clid. Probably a push. If I had to assume, I would probably go with Tian. Doinb is better than BDD. And then LWX and Crisp are not as good as Ruler in Life. And then FPX against Damwon. Nuguri is better than Khan. Canyon's better than Tian. Showmaker and Doinb are a push. And then Ghost and Barrel against LWX and Crisp is kind of a push. So in that matchup, it's Nuguri, Nuggery and Doinby against Canyon and Showmaker. And then like you have to draft around those, like those are the winning players from each side, and then you have to draft even everywhere else to make it kind of go into a predictable end game, I guess. I do think I like Damwon the most, but I do have huge concerns about their bot lane. I think that's probably closer to how I see it. I really like Gen G. If it's a bot lane meta, then Gen G and EDG will probably be the two best teams at Worlds. If it's a mid lane meta, then it'll be Damwon Gaming and FPX. If it's a jungle meta, it might be Damwon and LNG. If it's like a pure, if it's like an old school gank heavy jungle style where Tarzan can actually carry matches, then Tarzan is going to be the most important player at Worlds. I feel like I'm okay with this list the way that it is right now. And I think that after talking through it, you'll see how close I have a lot of these teams. So it's not like I'm saying this team is so much better than every other team at the tournament. It really depends on what kind of meta we see, and I'm not 100% sure what we're going to see. All I know is that normally it becomes very important to have a better AD carry than the opponent, because even though like a jungler can be more oppressive in general, and like a mid laner can roam to both side lanes, which is always great, at the end of the day, teams are less likely to make that game-winning play early on in the game, and it'll get us into a predictable team fight around a dragon or a Baron, like Dragon Soul or Soul Point, or around Baron at like 25 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe it's a second Baron. And when you get into those spots, you want hyper carry AD carries. They are the most important players. Like they're the highest upside players that can completely take over a game when it's an even game. Like obviously there's always a chance for someone to make a gigantic play like as a top laner or as a support, but the reason you make those plays is to put your AD carry in a position where they can pump out consistent damage. And that's one reason why I think when we're looking at these teams that have AD carries that are purely utility players, and they're not they're not the player that you want to be in a hard carry situation, that's going to be a big demerit for those teams at Worlds. So that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed that. I would like to hear your opinion if you have like some big problem with one of my takes. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of like Western fans that think I'm not being fair. But like the B tier, I could see that in like any four teams. I really don't see Rogue, Mad Lions, 100 Thieves, Team Liquid, C9, Fanatic consistently beating or like being the favorite against RNG or T1. And it's not only I don't see them being the favorite, I couldn't imagine a world where they deserve to be the favorite. Like if the sportsbook is saying, okay, well, RNG was shaky during the group stage and Mad Lions was like very convincing and dominant, so we'll post a line as like Mad Lions being the favorites. I don't even know if they could do that, because they probably understand that they would get murdered. Like people would be betting their life savings on RNG in that scenario. And hey, maybe the sportsbook is willing to do that, but I doubt it. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.